It's been interesting to see even post 51st state gate, if you will, to see Canada sort of stand up a little bit and own its position and take pride in who we are. And yeah, I think Canada has a lot to offer on the global stage, and we need to be direct, own it, and take some risks.
So, what's your name and what do you do?
I'm Chad Rickaby. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Climate Door.
And what's Climate Door?
Climate Door works with clean technology and agri-tech businesses in BC, and we help them scale through capital raising, government relations, and partnerships.
And for someone who doesn't know anything about this, what's scaling?
Scaling is helping a company access markets, commercialize, and get their product to market in a fast way so that it can create impact and grow.
And what kind of products are you working on right now?
We work across a range of products from solar technology to refrigeration businesses. We work in clean fuels, hydrogen, biofuels. We work with agri-tech businesses, so that's like things like soil sensors. We work in biochar. So really across the gamut, we're very lucky to have built an ecosystem of technologies and the sort of experts and networks that are required to support their growth.
What does innovation mean to you, Chad?
To us, I think it means taking ideas and getting them to market. So I think innovation can sometimes mean just, a new idea or interesting finding, but I think when innovation is actually creating impact, it's when those can go to market, and thinking both about technical innovation, which is often what most people think of, but also thinking about systemic innovation, social innovation, thinking about different ways to solve problems that might break down barriers or bring about new ways of thinking.
And what kind of social innovation is there demand for right now?
What we focus on with something like climate change, it requires us to work across so many different sectors, so many different verticals and types of audiences, stakeholder groups. Having people break out of their shells, learn how to communicate to different audiences. I think that's an example of social innovation because, our systems have been built in very hierarchical ways where there's processes for processes' sake and people often don't want to break out of those.
Do you think as Canadians we need to get into the culture of taking on more risk to innovate a little bit more readily?
I think Canada certainly has a culture of risk aversion, whereas a smaller country that has been blessed with abundant natural resources and so naturally there's perhaps less need to innovate. There's certainly some systemic things that create risk aversion here, but I think it also goes hand in hand with sort of being polite and the whole sort of Canadian stereotype. It's been interesting to see even post 51st state gate, if you will, to see Canada sort of stand up a little bit and own its position and take pride in who we are. And so, yeah, I think Canada has a lot to offer on the global stage, and we need to be direct, own it, and take some risks.
What kind of work are you interested in doing on a broader scale?
Our mission at Climate Door is to accelerate our pathway to net zero by scaling the technologies that we need to get there. And we firmly believe that the technical solutions we require actually already exist. For the most part, it's social and economic challenges. Getting those technologies to market, we believe, will be the fastest path to net zero, and that's our global impact. We want to see our companies reducing gigatons of carbon.
What are some specific examples of projects you've been working on that you're really excited about right now?
One that always comes to mind is our work that we're doing with the Chislada Carrier Nation up between Prince George and Prince Rupert. We're developing a clean energy park there that includes both solar and wind, so some of the more traditional later stage renewable energies, but then also innovating with some biofuels and also thinking about food security as well with aquaculture and indoor farming. We're really proud of this both because of the sort of environmental impacts that it will have, but also the socioeconomic benefits that it'll have for the nation, both in terms of creating jobs, but also providing food and energy security. It's a nice mix of, like I said, some of the later stage technologies, but also a very innovative biotechnology that enables them to leverage abundant wet wood that they have around them. And it's an important story because the reason why that wood is actually wet is because 50 years ago, their traditional territories were flooded to create a dam for electric power for industrial use in northwestern BC. And so I think it's an important example of reconciliation and where innovative technologies can be paired with off-the-shelf technologies, if you will, to really provide both environmental impacts, but also really important social economic impacts. And this is a community that right now is only on single-phase power and unable to leverage any of the sort of industrial opportunities they might have because they don't have the power that's required. So to have the community become a power producer and also have their own power and sovereignty over that, I think is something that we're really proud of.
Would you tell me about how you got into the space, Chad, and any advice you've been able to impart to others who are interested in following what you're doing?
To go back to school, I did a master's in public policy and was always very interested in sustainable development and where technology and sort of social innovation collide and where the role that government plays in that. That was my focus academically, and then I had the opportunity to go into management consulting, which I think provided a an opportunity to learn a lot of hard skills and think analytically, communicate things to different audiences. I do always recommend consulting if you can, because it's a very quick way to learn a lot of different things. And then I had the privilege of partnering up with a longtime friend. Actually, he's been my best friend since I think we were 8. We met in elementary school and played street hockey and things all our lives. He went all things finance, venture capital, and we really saw the opportunity in the clean economy where these two things really intersect between government policy, government incentives, grants, and then of course the need to raise private capital and help companies grow, get to market faster, be more efficient. And so we partnered up, and the rest is history. We've been at it for 4 years. In terms of advice, I would say every opportunity you have to learn, meet new people, get outside of your comfort zone. It's easy to come out of university, get a job, and get used to the comforts of a stable career, which is great. But for those that are interested in pursuing entrepreneurship, I think really trying to think broadly, think critically, all of these things are very important. It's not an easy journey, right? It's not for everyone. There's 99% of the world is much better suited for, a sort of more traditional thing. But if you think it is for you and you're willing to take risks and you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, then those are some of the things I'd recommend.